video, we will cover how to understand and analyze Task 1 questions for IELTS Academic Writing. There are 5 steps to writing a good essay for IELTS Academic Writing Task 1. Analyze the question, identify the main features, write an introduction, write an overview, and write the detailed paragraphs. One of the biggest mistakes you could make is missing out on the first step, that is analyzing the question. You may get so worried about getting the essay finished in the 20 minutes allowed for the task that you will end up getting straight down to writing without fully understanding the question. The result is an essay that fails to meet many of the marking criteria and thus achieving a low score. Whilst your language skills may be good enough to earn you a band 7 or 8, not answering the question appropriately could reduce your score to a band 6 or even lower. It's not difficult to analyze and understand Task 1 questions once you know how, and that's what you're going to learn in this video. Now let's look at how you can go about understanding the question. The first thing to understand is the format of every question in IELTS Academic Writing Task 1 is the same. Here's a typical question. The highlighted words are always the same no matter what type of question you get. The bar chart below shows the number of seals, whales and dolphins recorded in the Gourmet Straits from 2006 to 2018. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Every question consists of a brief description of the graphic, the instruction, and the graphic itself, which could be a chart, graph, or table. So let's analyze what you have to do. For this, we need to look at the instruction sentence again. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. You have to do 3 things. Select the main features, write about the main features, and compare the main features. This is the same for every question and every type of graphic. You'll notice that each part of the task refers to the main features of the graphic. You do not have to write about everything. A key skill you must learn is how to quickly pick out the features. Another point to note is that you are not required to give your opinion as you would for many Task 2 essays. This is a common mistake which will lose you marks. Only write about what you can see in the graphic. Now, how do we work on identifying the main features? Here are some checklists to help you identify the main features of the different types of IELTS Academic Writing Task 1 questions. The 7 question types are bar chart, line graph, table chart, pie chart, process diagram, maps, and multiple graphs. The various types of graphs and charts are not especially difficult to interpret. The challenge may just be that you're not used to working with them. Remember, IELTS is an English exam designed to test your language skills, not your mathematics ability. No complicated calculations are required. The graphics are just a way of presenting information using numbers and diagrams. Your job is to convert the information into a written form. Now let's look at how we can identify the main features for each question type. Let's start with bar charts and line graphs. What can you learn from the title? There won't always be a title, but where there is, read it carefully as it will give you important information about the chart or graph and the first clue as to what it's about. In our example earlier, the bar chart shows seal, whale and dolphin populations in the Gourmet Straits. Next is what information does the 2-axis give? The chart or graph will have a vertical axis and a horizontal axis, often called the X and Y axis. Each gives a different type of information. In our example, the X-axis tells us the years in which the number of seals, whales and dolphins were recorded, and the Y-axis shows how many were recorded. Next, we need to see what are the units of measurement. There could be many different things, for example, amount, time, age, and percentage. The measurements on our example bar chart are the amount in single numbers and time in years. Occasionally, the units won't be given, but you will be able to work out what they are either from the title of the chart or other information it includes. Next, what is being compared? Usually, IELTS Academic Writing Task 1 questions ask you to compare 2 or more group of things. They could include almost anything. In our sample question, we are asked to compare 3 types of marine mammals. Very often, you will have to compare what happens over a period of time. Next question you need to ask is what are the time periods? Is the data from the past, the present, or the future? Often it will be 2 or all 3 of these. This is very important to note because it will determine what tense or tenses you should use. The data in our sample bar chart is all in the past. Next, what is the most obvious trend? You should look for any clear increases or decreases in the data. They could be gradual or sharp changes. Next, are there any notable similarities? As well as noting marked increases and decreases, you also need to look out for things that are similar or stay the same over a period of time. Next, let's look at how we can identify the main features for tables. Many of you may fear tables more than any other type of graphic because they are just set of numerical data without any visual representation. However, they are not as complicated as they may at first look. The key to understanding them is to use the clues given in the title, the row and column headings, and the units of measurement. For example, the title of the table below tells us that it shows changes in the world population from 1950 to projected levels in 2050. Rows and columns, the world is divided into continents like Africa, Asia, etc. and data is given for 3 specific years, 1950, 2000 and projected data for 2050. In the first table, the units of measurement are billions of people, and in the second table, the percentages of the total world population are used. All the same questions in the checklist for bar charts and line graphs are relevant to tables except for question 2 about the x and y axis. Apart from this, you need to analyze the data in the same way. Next, we can identify the main features for pie charts. Pie charts feature regularly in IELTS Academic Writing Task 1. They always show percentages of proportions. Apart from that, they are essentially the same as bar charts and line graphs in that they are another way of presenting data visually. As with tables, the same checklist of questions can be used to analyze them, with the exception of question 2 about the x and y axis. Pie charts generally have titles and labels, or sometimes a key instead of segment labels, as in the sample question below. The key explains what each segment of the pie chart represents. Now we move on to a very different type of graphic, the process diagram. Here's a checklist of questions you can ask to help you analyze and understand them. Is it a linear or cyclical process? A linear process starts and finishes at different places. It will often involve the manufacture or creation of something with raw materials going in at one end and the finished product coming out the other end. A cyclical process is a process that goes back to the beginning and repeats over and over again, such as the life cycle of a frog. Next question, where does the process start and end? For a linear process, this will usually be obvious. It may be harder to determine for a cyclical process, so it's important that you examine the graphic carefully to find out. Next, how many steps are there to the process? If there is a lot, it can be helpful to number them from 1 to whatever number the final stage is. Next question to answer is, can the process be easily broken down into stages? In the brick making graphic, for example, there are 3 stages. Creating the bricks from clay, manufacturing the finished product by drying and firing, and packaging and delivery. In the life cycle graphic, there are also 3 distinct stages where the frog is at different stages of development: egg, juvenile and adult. Next question to ask is, what are the raw materials and what is produced at the end of the process? These questions obviously apply only to manufacturing processes. For other types of processes, it might be more appropriate to ask the following question: what is the end result of the process? The graphic here shows a different type of process, more of a system, and this question would certainly be helpful to ask here. The end result is the production of electricity. Finally, let's look at how we can identify the main features for maps. For IELTS Academic Writing Task 1 questions about maps, you will normally be asked to compare 2 or 3 maps of a place over a period of time. The maps could be from the past or the present. Occasionally, you'll get a map of a proposed development in the future. Map questions are some of the easiest to answer because the information is very clear, it doesn't involve numbers, and it needs little interpretation. However, I have a short checklist of questions you can ask to help you analyze and understand them. The first question you can ask is, what time periods are shown? Is the data shown from the past, the present, or the future? This is important to note because it will determine whether you should write in the past, present, or future tense. Next, what are the main differences between the maps? What features have disappeared? What new features are in their place? Next question is, what features have remained the same over the time period? Although the location on the maps will have undergone major development, some features will probably remain unchanged. That's all the information you will need to help you understand and analyze Task 1 questions for IELTS Academic Writing. Thanks for watching. Until next time.